This is Gemara Yoma Daf Yomi. The learning for this month, the month of Iyar, has been generously sponsored. L'schus for Rosh Shlema for Rivka Bas Basheva, as well as L'schus for Rosh Shlema Naftali Spima and Michal Esther. Be'er Hashem, the learning of the entire Chabura should bring a tremendous refuah shlema. Want to share some good news that Baruch Hashem, Sarah Bas Kilo, who we were learning for the past week and a half, is home and is Baruch Hashem recovering nicely. Mirt Hashem, she should be completely back to herself. Of course, the rest of our Chaylim and Men and Vegachayim and Sar Shalom Simon Reizil Sarah Bas Kenendel Ita Basim L'Chayis Yisrael Mindel Pedro Shavlei Shamas Naomi V'Shavek Sheikhana Shmuel Ben Tila Dinam Chanavizim L'Chav V'Sin L'Brachos Tov Musa Din Inam V'Shemino Sim Chatov Yem and V'Gav Fesh Sim V'Gav Dvora Michael Sibar Nathali L'Huva Menachamendo Ben Toiva B'Sor Sharchali Yisrael as well as Choshidach Vatalei Bas Ita, as well as Yischos Nechama for the family of and Eli Neshama for Yisachar Toiv Berish Ben Shleimai. We pick it up in the bottom of Chaf Hey Amid Beis. We ran through this last Gemara. I wanted actually to show two pictures to give a bit of a clear understanding of what's going on over here. But basically, we concluded with the Ketzad Derech Hiluchai. What is the way that they bring up the animal? And we had four different opinions. Let's just read the end of this Gemara and then we'll show a few pictures. We said Amar Rav, we're about 7 lines to the bottom of Chafei Amid Beis. Bin Tana Didam Bin Rav Yosi Basi Iluya Dibisra Aslinan. We go which part of the animal is better. Marzo Basa Iver Dibisra, Marzo Basa Shmina Dibisra. And the two opinions, are one is going with the Ivra de Bisra, which has the most meat, and one is going with the fattiest meat. Which one is better? So my time silka rego bahade reisha. What's the reason on all four opinions? The first thing, the head, and the right hind, the regel with the reisha, always went together. What's the reason? Mishum the reisha lefish be'at samais, because the head has lots of bones. So therefore, kirva rego bahade, we threw it together, the leg with it, which is a lot of fat. And now we conclude with the Kuli Alamiyas Roish Kara Beresha. Everyone said that the head came first. Minolan. How do we know that? Detanya Minayan the Roish Upader Shekaidin L'Chol Eivarim. How do we know that the head and the fat comes before all the limbs? Tamalaymar as Roishoy Vespidroy Ve'arach Ve'edach. And what about the other time that the pasuk says padar achrina? The other time the pasuk says fats. Moving over to Chavav and Aleph, today's daf. Lamai also, what does that come to teach us? The Chalatanya, as we learned in Araisa, Kesar Haya Oiseh, Noisin is a padar abisa shchita. They would put the peder, the fat, over the place of the incision on the neck. Umaleu, when they would bring it up, Zodar Kavich Almaila. That's the appropriate way to bring up the part of the animal. It's not appropriate, says Rashi, to bring up the head with the incision and the blood and guts flying out, so they'll take the fat and they cover it over. That was more proper honor. So here you see a beautiful picture of the Kehanim carrying a whole row of Kehanim, each one carrying a different part of the animal. Similarly, you see in this picture, this is what the Gemara just spoke about. People are probably wondering what's Derech Hiluchai. I don't know if I explained it properly yesterday. It means Derech Hiluchai, like you see the picture, the way the animal goes. The head comes first, the two front legs, etc., etc. Finally, over here this is the Kohanim putting the different Ivarim on the Kevesh, on the ramp. And here's another wonderful picture. And here you see all the Kohanim carrying, it's a little bit of a clearer picture, all the Kehanim carrying a different part of the animal, and that's what we just discussed in the previous Gemara. Let's begin the new Mishnah, Daf Chavav Amid Aleph. Says the Mishnah, Hapayis Hashlishi, we're up to the third of the fourth lotteries, Chadashim Likatayres, the new ones, whoever hasn't won yet, come and be a part of the raffle for the Ketairis. We'll see in the Gemara exactly why. They come and they make the lottery. Varvi, the fourth lottery. Chadashim Gem Yishanim. Those who won and those who haven't won yet. Mi Male Varim and Hakevesh Lamizbeach. Who's going to bring up the limbs from the ramp, the Kevesh, to the Mizbeach? Says the Gemara. Tana. Me'olam loishana adam ba. Me'olam, forever. A bit of machlekes, exactly what this means, Yishainim. But says the Gemara, no one ever got the Ketairis 2 times. My taima, because the Ketairis causes someone to become wealthy, and as Rashi points out, therefore they didn't let someone repeat it 2 different times. My taima. What is the reason? Ilema. If you're going to tell me that the reason why the Ketairis brings wealth, Misham Dechsev, it says in the Torah, Yesima Ketairis Be'apecha. First, the pasuk says Ketairis. Uksiv Basrei. And what does the next pasuk say? You can actually see here on the side of the Gemara. One is pasuk Yud in Devarim Lamed Gimel. One is Yud Aleph. What does the next pasuk say? Baruch Hashem chelai, that Hashem will bless you. So we see that there's a blessing for prosperity for those who do the Ketairis. Says the Gemara, they can't be, because and this first pasuk, it also talks about the Ayla, that it says, so what's the reason, says the Gemara, that the Ketairis brings wealth? You're right. It would have thought it's the Ayla as well, but because the Ayla is very common, that's not what's included in the pasuk, but rather it's referring to the Ketairis. Just to mention, this is one of the big marmakaimis about being a sandik and a bris brought down in Shulchan Aruch, that as well one does not give sandik to the same person two different times for the same reason that it says it brings wealth. The Gain over there actually points out that, and first of all, we don't see everyone wealthy who becomes sandik, and the Gain says if that's true over here it says me'oilam. What does that sound like? Then no one repeated their entire life getting the Ketairis two times. So says the guy that maybe it's a little bit different, and therefore the Goyin wants to argue. The Gemara, Amar Rava, a little bit about being a sandik and the wonderful skula with it. So says Rava, Loi meshkacha surban de Rabbanan de Mayri. I haven't found a surban de Rabbanan, a young Talmud Chacham that became a Mayri, that became a Paisik Ella, the Asi Misheva Levi, one that came from either Sheva Levi or Misheva Yisachar. Where do I know this? Says Rava Levi Dechsev Yaru Mishvatechel Yaakov. Yaru, he's going to teach, he's going to give halacha to those from Yaakov, Yisachar, Dechsev Yisachar. Bina leitim ladas ma yasa Yisrael. They can have the bina and the das to understanding of the times, to know what Klal Yisrael is going to do. Says the Gemara, Rava, you told me only Levi and Yisachar. Maybe Yehuda Nami, but maybe Yehuda as well. Yehuda mechoykikei. As the pasuk says, that Yehuda is a mechoyk. He gives over chukim. He gives over laws. Says the Gemara, Asuke shmaitza liba dehilchasa kamina. I didn't mean someone who stam gives a shir. I meant someone who's mayra ira, someone who gives psak halacha. That is only from Levi and Yisachar. So now the Gemara, after a bit of a digression, comes back to our topic. Omar Rav Yochanan, back to the topic of the carbon, the different carbonis. Ein mefaisin al tamid shal bein harabayim. Says Rav Yochanan, what did our mission just teach us? It taught us about the third pious and the fourth pious, the pious for the Ketairis, the lottery for the Ketairis, the lottery for the limbs. Says Rav Yochanan, there is no lottery for the tamid shal bein harabayim, the afternoon tamid. Ella, kain shezachar b'shachar zachar ben harabayim. The one who won in the morning, it was a double, gets into the afternoon. Meisvei, asked the Gemara, says the Gemara, I'm sorry, what's going on? It says that the same way they did a payis in the morning, they did a payis, a lottery in the afternoon. Says the Gemara, it sounds like they raffled off the Talmud. It didn't go hand in hand with the first Talmud. Answers the Gemara, Kitanyahi b'Ketairis. What's that referring to? That's referring to the Ketairis, that they raffled off the Ketairis in the afternoon. The Gemara is not done. A male word. A male word cannot be referring to the Ketairis, which is feminine. It's referring to the carbon tamid. So I asked the Gemara, we did make a payis for the carbon tamid. Why did you, Rav Yochanan, tell me we did not? Says Gemara, you're right. Ema law. Change the brisa. Meant to say law, meaning referring to the Ketairis. Says Gemara, 1 second. Vadanya, we have an explicit brisa. Kishem shemevaisin loy shachris, kach mevaisin loy arvis. Okay, so far we could have changed it, but the brisa continues and says, ukishem shemevaisin lo shachris, kach mevaisin lo arvis. It's over. It's a brisa that says there's two payaslis, two lotteries in the morning and the afternoon, clearly referring to both the Ketairis and the carbon tamid. So Rav Yochanan, what are you going to tell me? Answers the Gemara, Amar Rav Shmuel bar Rav Yitzchak Acha, B'Shabbos askinan. Shabbos is different. You know why Shabbos is different? Says the Gemara, Hayom Mishamaris Mischatshis. We've learned this before. Shabbos they would switch Lechem Apanim. Shabbos they would switch Mishmaris. The Kehanim would switch groups, changing of the guards. So since they would switch on Shabbos, says the Gemara, they did a new lottery as well for the Talmud and the Ketairis, but regularly they did not. Says the Gemara, 1 second. What was your havamina? What were you thinking? If you were correct that they did a lottery For the Ketairis and the Talmud, you have too many bayasais. We know that there was a set number. The first Mishnah on this parak taught us that there were 4 bayasais every day. But if you were right, there would be multiples. Says the Gemara, no, that wouldn't be bothering me. Maisekula meisafra, they would bring everyone in the morning. Dezachu beishachre zachu, dezachi ba'arve zachu. So that's not a question, but at the end of the day, the Gemara does conclude that Rabbi Yochanan cannot be correct from an explicit Raisa. Has to fold and say that is referring to Shabbos, and therefore again, Rabbi Yochanan holds his own that there is no payis for the Karban Tamid Shalbein ha'arbayim, but rather there's no tarban, rather there's no lottery for the Karban Tamid. The one who wins in the morning gets it in the afternoon. Says the Gemara 3 lines before the white lines. Haravi chadashim im yeshanim. The 4th lottery, we get everyone together. Those who already won, those who did not win. Says the Gemara Masnisan the like Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. The Mishnah is not like Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. Why not? It's now we learned in the Mishnah. Rav Elazar ben Yaakov Aimer Hamale Marim leKavesh. The same person. What did our Mishnah just teach us? Let's look back at the Mishnah. Our Mishnah said that the 4th lottery was for who's going to bring up the items, the Ivarim, the limbs from the ramp up until the Mizbeach. Says Rabbi Yehuda. Says Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, I'm sorry. It's not true. The same person, Hamale Ivarim, the one who brought it up, is the one that brings it to the Mizbeach. Clearly not like our Mishnah who says it was a separate lottery for who is allowed to bring it up. Says the Gemara, what is the point of a debate over here? Mar Savar, what does our Mishnah hold? It's better to have more people there, and we want to have more Kohanim participating. So they did a new lottery for the job of taking the limbs up the ramp. In a place of the Shechina, it's not appropriate to do part of Avodah. The one that started, he put the stuff on the ramp. It's only nice, says Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, that he should bring it up, and it shouldn't look like, as Rashi points out, it shouldn't look like it's a tircha, it's a bother to do the Avodah. Says the Gemara, Omar Rava. So again, what did Rav Elazar ben Yaakov just teach us? He just taught us that there was no lottery to take the limbs up the ramp. Comes along Rava and he points out, Loi Rav Elazar ben Yaakov isleid Rav Yehuda, Loi Rav Yehuda isleid Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. We previously saw that Rav Yehuda held that there was no lottery for the bringing of the coals. And therefore says the Gemara, Rav Elazar ben Yaakov cannot hold to Rav Yehuda, and Rav Yehuda cannot hold to Rav Elazar ben Yaakov. What's the reason? Dim King, because if they held of each other, there would be too many lotteries, there would be too few lotteries. Because then what would happen, it would be less than 4, because Rav Elazar ben Yaakov held there was no lottery for bringing up the limbs. Rav Yehuda held there was no lottery for the removal with the shovel of the Ketairis. So if each one held of each other, we wouldn't have 4, we would have too little. Says the Gemara 1 second. Let's say you find a brisa that says that there were really 5 lotteries, not 4. Like Rav Elazar ben Yaakov, like Rav Yehuda, because according to them, they're missing one who would never be 5. Says the Gemara. I should say better. Says the Mishnah. Today's a 3 Mishnah day. Tamid karav b'tisha ba'asara ba'achadasar u'b'shnei masar. The Karban Tamid is potentially brought by 9, 10, 11, or 12 people. Meaning, the entire bringing of the Karban, as we'll see immediately in one moment, is performed from between 9 and 12 kohanim. No more, no less. Ketzad, what are we talking about? Atzmai betes. If he's doing it himself, then, the Karban itself is 9 kohanim. Let's take a moment to see Rashi. Rashi, on the last white line says, B'chol yoyim b'tisha. Every day the Karban Tamid needed 9 kohanim. Chamisha leivarim. As we saw previously, the different limbs were held by different kohanim. B'mel yemahalchan, like we started off today, we saw yesterday, that was 5 kohanim. Echad likravim, ve'echad litzailes for the flour, ve'echad lichavitim, ve'echad liyayin, and therefore 4 plus 5, you'll have 9 kohanim involved in the regular Karban Tamid. That's on a regular day. Says the Gemara Bechag. What happens on Yontif on Sukkis, Biyad Echad Shlucha Shamayim. One of the Kohanim also held the water. Harikana Asara. So we have 10 Kohanim. Beinar Bayim, when you have the carbon talmud in the afternoon, that's every day B'Chadasrei. It's going to be 11. Why? Who asks my Betisha? He is 9, the carbon itself is 9. Ushnayim the other Shnei Gizrei Eitzim, and 2 more Kohanim, each one holding a block of wood. 9 and 2, the wood that had to be put on the Mizbeach at the end of the day is 11. B'Shabbos, on Shabbos it's 11. On Shabbos there was the addition of holding the 2 spoons of the frankincense of Lechem HaPanim, and therefore you have 11. When Shabbos coincides with the Sukkot, then you have the water plus the 2 of the Levina. 1 and 2 and 9 is going to be 12 kohanim. So this is how, said our Mishnah, when we're dealing with the carbon tamid, we have anywhere between 9 and 12 kohanim involved in the process. Says the Gemara, Omar Rava Vitema Rami Bar Chama Vitema Rav Yochanan. Ein menasle mayim b'chag el b'tamid shachar. We see from our Mishnah that there's no din of nisuch hamayim, the pouring of the water on Sukkot, aside for during the carbon tamid in the morning. Mimai. How do I know that? Mediktani. What did the end of the Mishnah say? That b'Shabbos when Shabbos is Sukkot, one of them is holding the jug of water. Says the Gemara, 1 second. If you're going to tell me that they would pour the water during the weekday in the afternoon, you'd also have a case of 12 during the week. Because what happened on a regular day of Sukkot? What happened on a regular day? Beinar Abayim. What did the Mishnah teach us? You ready at 11. You ready at 11. Why? Because the 2 kohanim holding the pieces of wood. So if you ready at 11, and now with Sukkot to have an additional Nisach HaMayim, you'd have 12. So from the fact that the Mishnah spoke out, the only time you have 12 is when Shabbos coincides with Sukkot, shows us that a regular day, Beinar Abayim in the afternoon, they did not pour water on Sukkot. Says the Gemara, I learned the same thing in a brayso. When the person was pouring the water on Sukkot, they would tell the kohen, lift up your hands. We want to see what you're doing. Why? One time the kohen was a tzeduki and he poured the water on his leg. And everyone pelted him with their esrogim. Why? Because you're not allowed to do that. You have to pour the water on the mizbeach. And he was a tzeduki, so they killed him with their esrogim. Which some bring is a raya that you're allowed to use an esrog, a piece of a mitzvah, even for other purposes, a holy purpose, to protest against the stuki. But says the Gemara, Shma Mina, we see from your raya that when was this story? If you're holding your esrog, when must it have been? Early in the morning. Shachris, holding their esrog is a raya that the Nisach HaMayim is only in the morning. Says the Gemara, Tanya, we learned in a brayso. Rashbi Omer, we're still within the week of Lag BaOmer of Shimon Bar Yochai, comes to teach us. How do you know that in the afternoon, the carbon talmud, you have to bring those 2 pieces of wood, 2 different kohanim, it says that they have to arrange, and they would arrange the eitzim, the wood. We don't need to tell that about in the morning. Why not? The pasuk already taught us that they put on wood in the morning. So why is the pasuk again telling me v'archu eitzim, you set up wood? Says the Gemara, v'arach aleha. Then what does it mean that you placed on? Says the end of the pasuk. Teaching us that you have to put on the wood of the mizbeach in the afternoon. Says the Gemara, how do you know that? Maybe they're both talking about the morning tamid. And maybe the Torah is teaching me you put on wood, and then another kohen comes and puts on wood again in the morning. Says the Gemara, can't be. uba'ar. The Torah should have said 2 times ubi'er in the singular. But the fact it said it in plural shows it's referring to the Torah made carbon in the afternoon. Says the Gemara, Ikaz Rachmana ubi'er hava min achad in trei loy. I would have thought it's only 1 koyin. Kamash malan. So therefore, what does it come to teach me? That first 1 koyin does it, and then 2 koyanim do it. Seemingly, what do we see? So that's what the pasuk is teaching me. It's not necessarily talking about carbon tam shel bein harabayim. Answers the Gemara, no. Im kein nemakro bi'er ubi'aru inami v'arach v'archu mayu bi'er v'archu. Why does the pasuk switch off? First it says you burn, and then it says you arrange. Shema mina kedekam rinan. Like we said, it's referring to the carbon tam shel bein harabayim. That's when you put the wood on the mizbeach. Tani Rav Chia payis pamim yugimel pamim yudalid pamim tezvav pamim tezayin. There were times that the payis was pamim yugimel, sometimes 13, sometimes 14. Sometimes 15, sometimes 16 kohanim. Tani Yudzayin, there were 17. And therefore there's only going to be 17 according to that brisa. But our brisa is learning it's anywhere between 13 and 16 kohanim. We have the 9 for the carbon tamid plus 4 other kohanim like we spoke about, and that is that payis. Let's just begin this Mishnah and then we'll call it a day. Says the Mishnah. Actually, before we see the Mishnah, I'm sorry. There's one more beautiful picture. Here you see these are all the different limbs how they used to set up on the ramp. Here you again see everyone carrying the 9 kohanim, bringing the carbon tamid, each one holding a different part of the animal. Here you see a picture that we've seen before, the kohanim, each one holding a block of wood, the 2 kohanim that have to bring the wood onto the mizbeach, and here you see that on Shabbos the 2 kohanim would bring the spoons of the levina from the shulchan. And finally we go back to the Mishnah. Says the Mishnah, Ayil, when it comes to bringing a ram, Kara b'achad asar, 11 kohanim. Habasar b'chamisha. Now how do we get 11? So the flesh of the animal is 5 kohanim. Hakarbayim, when it comes to the intestines, hasoilas, the flour, yayin, the wine, bishnayim, shnayim, 2 apiece. So that's another 6 kohanim. Says, so now so far where we're holding 6 and 5 is 11. Par, karav, and that's how we have the 11 of the ayil. Says the Mishnah now, the par is karabas esrim ba'arba, 24 kohanim. How do we get there? Harosh v'aregel harosh, ba'achad haregel b'shnayim. The head and the leg is the rosh is 1, the regel is 2 is 3. Ha'oiket v'aregel, ha'oiket v'shnayim v'aregel b'shnayim. Again, that's another 4 is 7. Ha'chaz v'agira, chaz v'echad is 1, v'agira is b'shleish is another 4 is 11. Shtei yadayim b'shnayim, shtei defanos b'shnayim, another 4 is 6 is 15. Hakarbayim v'asodas v'ayayim b'shleisha shleisha is 3 by 3 is another 9. Is 9 16 and 9 is 20. 15 and 9 I'm sorry is 24. But Medvar Mamurim says the Mishnah b'karbanai sibur av karban yachid and writes alakrev makrev that if whoever wants to do karban yachid is allowed to. The cutting up the animal and the skinning of the animal, everyone has equal opportunity for. We'll pick up